Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Smith. It's Friday, Paraskevia. Today we're going to be looking at animals in Georgian, şkovелები. This is also interesting because it gets us practicing the verb qola, which is the verb to have for living things. And at the end of the class, I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite animals, the zarbmața, and why it's quite interesting for other words in Georgian. So if you are ready, let's go. Slide 1 is in two parts. The first part is a sentence which uses the grammar that we studied in video 20, which is having something alive. And then the second part is just a list. Okay, so let's go to the first part. This is a full observation of mine. I'm telling you, Chems Megobars, my friend, Kavs, he has shinauri skhovelebi. He has domesticated animals. He technically farms them. Mas shinauri frინველებიც qavs. He also has poultry. Now, let's be clear, also in Georgian, all of these are domesticated animals, but I just wanted to make a distinction to make the list a bit more dynamic, that's all. So let's look at what we just heard. Chems megobars in dative, because we're using qola. Again, please reference the video we've already studied. Chems megobars, not megobari, Chems megobars, my friend, he has domesticated animals. They are my friend's animals. Mas shinauri frინველებიც qavs. This ts on the end here actually functions as the word to. Not always, but in many cases, if it's also something or something too, then adding the ts, you can then, of course, create it. For example, me is me, but me too is mets. Shen is you. You too, shens, and so on. Okay? So here's the list. Tscheni, tschvari, dzrocha, dzagli, chbo, chori, viri, kata, tcha. Tscheni, tschvari. Here's a tip. They begin with the tsch from szkovелები. Dzrocha and dzagli. If you want a tip, I sometimes imagine that I'm saying the word does. I want this z sound to really be pronounced. And to avoid it disappearing, because it's not my first language and these sounds are quite strong in Georgia, imagine you're saying dzrocha, dzagli, dzrocha, dzagli. Just as you're trying to pronounce those sounds extra hard because no one's around you really to correct you, then just imagine that you're making this dzz into does, and then try to make it really force that in so you get much more comfortable with the sound. Dzrocha, dzagli, chbo, chori, viri, kata, tcha. Notice that we have dogs and cats inside this category. Georgians do not necessarily treat their shinauri szkovелები like humans. Maybe a cat sleeps outside. Maybe the dog, never allowed inside. We don't know what the rules are, but these are animals which are generally used in the farm, around the farm. Cats have a function. They kill mice, which is useful. Dogs have a function. They scare away other animals and they chase away cats and mice. So you can see how obviously these animals, if my friend is serious about his farm, then these animals are used for a purpose. He doesn't treat his cat like it was a person. Not like I'm judging, I'm just saying, it's just the way it is. Poultry, shinauri frინველები, are mamali, which is the cock or the rooster as you see it. It's the big guy. Remember, mama in Georgian means father. So the cock or the rooster, mamali. The chicken, katami. Mamali, katami. Indauri is the turkey. Bati is the goose. And ichvi is the duck. Quack, 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 quack. Ichvi is the duck. Bati is the goose. Indauri, katami, and mamali, these are all the poultry. So just to go through these again, horse, tscheni, sheep, tschvari, cow, dzrocha, dog, dzagli, calf, baby, dzrocha, chbo, chori, viri, donkey, kata, cat, tcha, goat. Many of these animals are used in childhood stories. There are actually videos online. I will add one that I like in the description of this for children to learn, which I particularly like, and it just helps me remember the vocabulary when I feel that these words are fading away in my memory, because I don't actually use them that much. They often sort of come to my attention when I'm in Georgia, not when I'm studying, unfortunately. Slide 2, now I'm talking about a zoo, zooparki, a new zoo, achad zooparki. And this new zoo, ekoleba, is going to have garეული ცხოველები, wild animals. Obviously, I don't want them to be dead. So this new zoo is going to have ekoleba animals, wild, garეული, sashishi, ცხოველები. Now, maybe I would not like them to be in cages, galiashi, but that's not the point of today's class. You will learn these animals as if they were in a zoo on many videos you will find online, including the ones that I will recommend. So, here's my sentence for you. Achal zooparks male garეული და sashishi ცხოველები ეყოლება. Achal zooparks male garეული და sashishi ცხოველები ეყოლება. The new zoo will have soon male wild and dangerous animals. Top of the list, I chose vepchvi. The reason why I chose vepchvi was because I found it very confusing that vepchvi is tiger, but the knight in the panther's skin, which is the most famous poem by Shota Rustaveli in Georgia, is called Vepchis Dakaosani. Vepchis Dakaosani is the panther's skin, even though Vepchvi is tiger. I'm not going to go deeper into that, but tiger, Vepchvi, Mgeli, wolf, Melia, fox, or Mela. People say both are fine. Mela, I like. Melia, I don't normally hear, if that's a tip. Spilo, elephant. Zebra, obviously. Bakaki, no? Bakaki, with our k sound, which is used to practice. Kids learn this with dedaena, bakaki, to get the k sound we're using in our classes. Datvi, bear. Avaza, cheetah. Zvigeni, shark. Iremi, deer. Mayimuni, monkey. Mayimuni, for various reasons, I thought it was quite interesting, because Mayimuni, think of being immunity. And now we've got monkeypox everywhere, right? So Mayimunis, Kvavili is monkeypox. Do I have immunity to the monkeypox? My immunity. It was a rabbit hole that I went down recently, but Mayimuni is just a monkey. Mayimuni's kvavili, which actually means flower, is monkeypox. And bonobo is one of my favorite types of monkeys. Remember that this list doesn't exclusively talk about all the different variants. These are just the A1 standard animals that you're going to see in a zoo, for example. Girapi, lomi, behemoti. This one just got my attention because in English we often say, I ate so much I'm like a behemoth, right? Or this field was so full of cows that one of them was like a behemoth. So it's interesting that behemoth is used in British English, where behemothi is the hippo. I remembered it instantly because of that reason. Gweli, snake. Nyangi, crocodile. Where do they live? In the Nile. That's how I remembered it. Nyangi, living in the Nile. Delpini, that's not difficult to learn. And then pinguini, that's also not difficult to learn either. Got it? Good. Slide 3 now looks at the word birds. Now, Georgians have 2 words for birds. Frინველები helps us classify birds in a really comprehensive way. And then ცხოველები are the groups of birds that we're not afraid of, that we don't eat, that don't really belong in a zoo. They're kind of everywhere. Okay? So on this list, we've got ცხოველები, but they are actually also ფრინველები, no? Now, of course, the შინაური, ფრინველები, the poultry were in the first slide. Okay? They are birds, but they're not ცხოველები. They don't sort of cute enough. What I will say, of course, is angry birds, because of this inherent cuteness of the everyday ცხოველები. Brasiliani ცხოველები is the direct translation for angry birds. If you're going to Google that, you're going to see the franchise, the game, the movie, the toys, everything, right? Not Brasiliani ფრინველები. Brasiliani ფრინველები now, from a biological sense, is now starting to categorize them as angry in sort of their nature, which then makes you think if they're angry, then they're aggressive, then they're dangerous, then they're sashishi frინველები, you know? So if you go through this whirlwind, then you end up with 2 different types of birds, but they're all more or less in the same group. Going further, prena is flying. Prena, the verb to fly. Prena. Aeroplane, tvitenprinavi. Tvitenprinavi. That's an airplane. I'm flying medavprinav. Medavprinav. I'm flying. This obviously assumes that I don't think that I have superpowers. I'm flying somehow. Maybe I'm flying in an airplane, which then I would change this and say, tvitenprinavit. I'm flying by plane. Okay, let's get down to it. The ones that we should be sort of familiar with, mtredi, pigeon or dove. Kvavi is a crow. Remember, kvavili is a flower. And remember that my moon is kvavili is pox. Kvavili, kvavi. Again, one of the reasons why I love Georgian. Chikvi, jay, blue jay, common bird, small, definitely a ცხოველები. Tsero is a crane. It's now used, of course, to teach the ts sound in Georgian, just as it was in Dedaena with Jakub Gogebashvili. So tsero, crane. It's in one of my very early videos. Seagull, you're going to see that on the west side of Georgia. Tolia, and then Behura, which is when the sun sets. They're the super busy ცხოველები. Slide 4 is in 2 parts, the vocabulary and then a translation. We need 2 words from this list to achieve this translation. What we want to say is the sloth is one of the laziest animals in the world. Now, sloth, zarbmața. But we're not learning that for nothing, because laziness is zarbmacoba. They're clearly connected. If you want to call a person lazy, for example, a guy, zarbmați კაცი, you're a lazy guy. Zarbmați კაცი ხარ, you are a lazy, good-for-nothing guy. Zanti means idle, lazy, no initiative. Mimezarreba, that's the verb. We don't really necessarily need to say that it's making me lazy in English. We can just say that I can't be bothered. I'm not bothered to do it. So mimezarreba transmits that feeling. And then another thing which is a little bit more complicated in one word, which is one of the reasons why I love Georgian, is that gamma zarbmața means Gamma zarbmatza, it means that somebody externally has made you idle by doing too much and it's forced you to be lazy. That perhaps your own natural state would have been less lazy if it wasn't for this external force. It's kind of weird, but imagine over-mothering a person so that at the age of 30, they're simply unable to achieve even basic domestic tasks. That might also help define why the katsi is zarmatsi. And it rhymes. Also, of course, za 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 za, za 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 za. If you mirror it as from lazy, as. So just quite neatly a way to remember these words and the family tree which they come from, starting with sloth. Now, what we want to say is Zarbmatza msoplioshi erti ყველაზე ზანტი ცხოველია. The sloth is one of the laziest animals in the world. To express our adjective, we're using zanti. And of course, zarbmatza is the sloth. And ცხოველი we've already been using today. So 3 of the pieces we've already practiced. The other things we're going to learn are quite simply msoplio, msoplio. Very similar to other words in Georgian where the M can be quite mute. Soplio, msoplio, she, in the earth, on the earth. Erti does not mean one. It means one of. Ყველაზე means that it's the superlative adjective. We always need an adjective afterwards. In this case, ყველაზე ზანტი, the laziest, yeah, which I've written here. And then ცხოველია, okay? We do need the verb to be here, არის, to make the sentence work, because it is one of the animals on the earth, okay? So, ზარმაცა მსოფლიოში ერთ-ერთი ყველაზე ზანტი ცხოველია. That's it. That's the last slide of today. Thank you so much for your attention. Next week, we're going to be taking a look at another verb, motzoneba. Now, motzoneba is the verb to like, liking things or not liking things. It's quite a complicated verb and a massive undertaking. We'll start that next week. I'll see you then. Have a nice weekend. Goodbye.